Hey guys, hopefully you've read chapter 1 by this point. I wanted to just go through a brief slideshow and pull out some of the key concepts. I'm not going to go through everything in the chapter, but just to talk through some of the concepts a little bit. This is a nice overview to, it's called effective business communication, but really just some of the key terms that you're going to want to know for the semester. And I do like that it starts out with this idea of Web 2.0. They call it Business Communication 2.0. Sometimes it's called Web 2.0. But it's that big shift that we've seen in how the internet has changed the way that we talk, the way that we do business. And so it starts in with new media. And I'm assuming since most of you are signed up for an online class that you're familiar with some of these icons up here, but you have LinkedIn, which is a professional network, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so these technologies have enabled us to communicate in new ways. And the textbook contrasts this with the 1.0 business model. Now what's really important is that the 1.0 is really top-down. It's let's use advertisements as an example. The traditional business model was usually print or television, and it was the business or company selling you a service. They were communicating with you. You could not communicate back unless maybe you wanted to write them a letter or something like that. But it was linear. It was going one way, and it was typically top down, right? That bosses were talking to employees, that companies were talking to consumers. The internet and this Web 2.0 shift made things more conversational. Okay, so you have consumers and businesses interacting. You see every Super Bowl. I don't know if you guys watch the Super Bowl, but you see a lot of sort of fan-created videos popping up. Campaigns are using, advertising campaigns are using fan-submitted, viral videos, photos, stuff like that. I was watching television the other day, and there was a car story. It was an advertisement for a car company, and it was somebody's story about their first car. And then after the commercial, it says, submit your story, and it gives you the web address and their Facebook. So there's this shift, and one thing to think about are what are the benefits of this shift, but also what are the potential problems. And that's something that I want you to consider, and they bring it up in the book. There's a couple infographics that I picked out. This one really shows the difference between Web 1.0 and 2.0. And the biggest change that you can see is now you have a lot more people contributing to this sort of collective content. And I like that they say collective intelligence, right? If Web 1.0 is really just linear, right? Somebody's creating content and I'm reading it. 2.0 is somebody's creating content and I'm adding to it. You can still see on that Web 2.0 side that the number of people creating content versus the number of people consuming content is still the minority, but it's a lot more. We have a billion plus global users. So I'm kind of curious. There's this next infographic that kind of breaks down types of online users, those that create content and those that just sort of spectate. Are you just reading and watching things, or are you also posting things? I think a lot of us fall into that joiners category. We're not necessarily creating content, but we're not completely passive. We're sharing it on social networking sites. Critics and creators are really the people that are writing blogs, they're uploading videos, and I guess that population tends to be the younger demographic, and maybe we've seen business shift as they've embraced Web 2.0, have their shifts now focused on a younger demographic, and that might be one of the potential problems, because the last section here are the inactives, people that are inactive on the internet, and you see, it increases with age. But it's fascinating because you guys are in an online class, and I want to know kind of what you think about this. LinkedIn keeps popping up in the textbook a lot. I'm on LinkedIn if you want to look me up, but it's like Facebook for professionals. As you can see, the demographic is really for an upper middle class male, but you do tend to find all kinds of jobs on there. But it's a way of networking, and that's really important. This idea of meeting people, making connections, and sort of selling yourself online. It's a way you guys should consider how you represent yourself on the web and how this might benefit you professionally. It's, and maybe if what you're contributing on the web isn't benefiting you professionally, what can you do? And I think you can start easily by just getting your resume and cover letter up as a starting point. The chapter also goes over some key terms like stakeholders, internal versus external, communication networks, formal versus informal communication. This image, I don't know where you guys are all located, but right when I started teaching here, they put in a roundabout, and it was a big mess. Here we have this new traffic circle. It's multiple lanes. There's signage, but it was confusing for a lot of people. And I know that the semester that it was sort of implemented, students were complaining constantly. And so we started talking about who are the stakeholders of this project, who are all the people that are involved and impacted by it. And that's everything from the two schools, or Georgetown Tech and Coastal Carolina, to the Department of Transportation, the companies that were contracted to build it, the investors, and ultimately all of us as students and people that travel this road. So we're all different types of stakeholders. Whether we all have the equal amount of say is another thing, but we're all sort of connected to this project. So internal versus external communication, using this example looks something like this. Internal communication might be between the director of the project and people on site building it, okay? Or within Georgetown Technical College, people talking amongst themselves about the project. It's internal, within this business or this company. External typically takes the form of either company-to-company conversation or usually company to public, right? So when all the students and faculty were notified about this change, we got emails and they said, hey, we're putting in a traffic circle and here's how you use it, and they submitted things via email. They had a PDF on the website. So I don't know, a lot of people I guess missed that memo, so we could go back to what would be the most effective communication. If you want to prepare somebody for this change, maybe we'll consider, business communication 2.0. Would it have been beneficial to post something on Facebook about it, or create a YouTube video? So formal versus informal communication has to do with formality. Are you typing up sort of a formal memo, using standard proper English, or is this going to be a quick email, or is it an instant message? And the formality of the communication that you're using really depends on who you're talking to, what's the context, the importance, and the expectations. Do they expect this to be formal? I have a lot of students email me informally, right? Hey, what's up? What's due tomorrow? All lowercase letters, no dear so-and-so, no closing. It's very informal. However, the situation, a student writing to an instructor, the expectation is that you're going to follow a more formal form. I think sometimes those unspoken conventions, when it's difficult, what's the expectation? Then you have to do a little bit of research, right? So that's a key concept. 5 points. This is page 6 and 7, right? And the text really sort of goes over, generally what's an effective message. 1, practical information. 2, give facts. Be credible. 3, be concise and efficient. Think about your reader, that they don't want to spend a lot of time consuming the message. Get to the point. 4, clarify expectations and responsibilities. Keep the focus on the reader. What does this mean to them? They want to know, okay, what does this mean for me? What do I need to do? This is an example of, I think, a really effective memo that was sent to me back when I was in graduate school from my boss, alerting all staff about evaluations, that we needed to write a self-evaluation, a peer evaluation, and that we would have a supervisor evaluation. And if you look, you'll see that she follows the memo format, but then the first paragraph is really clear. It acts as an introduction to what follows, right? Writing consultants are to be evaluated yearly by the Writing Center director. And then it says there are 3 parts to this process. And it highlights all 3 parts. And you can see later on in the memo, she bolds all 3 parts with the instructions. And she gives the purpose. It's direct. This memo will give you specific guidelines for the evaluations, but feel free to come to me with any questions you have about the evaluation process. And she's got a short paragraph explaining each section. She's bolding key terms, the type of evaluation, and also the due date. When are things due? To whom are they submitted? How are they submitted? The last key point on page 7 is offer compelling, persuasive arguments and recommendations. Not every message is an argumentative message, but I think the focus and the key to this point is focus on what this message means to that reader. And finally, the last thing that wasn't really in this but comes up later in the chapter is be ethical. Use good judgment, acknowledge sources, be factually accurate, common sense. You also have information on page 11 and 22 about the communication process. And I want you to take a look at they have some illustrations, some diagrams that really break down senders versus receivers, encoding versus decoding, and mediums and channels. So you want to take a look at that. This is the rhetorical diagram that I wanted to go through. And the text, whatever it is, if it's a written message, if it's a speech that you're giving, if it's an email, that's the message. And as you see on the left-hand side, there's an author, and on the right-hand side, there's an audience. Okay, and they're joined together by language, right? So you're using a shared language. And sometimes we have to know, is it a formal language? Is it an informal language? Does it use specific sort of terms? You can think about the form. Is there a required form to send this message in? Does it need to be in an email, or does it need to be sort of presented as a typed letter? All of these things are dictated by the culture and context in which the message occurs, right? So that could be the field that you work in, the company that you work for. What are the rules that govern communication in this area? And those things shift, right? So how I communicate with people working at a restaurant is going to differ from how I communicate with people working in higher education. And I thought this cover was kind of cool. I added in the not me, but it's Time magazine. When was this? 2007 made Person of the Year. They do that every year. You. And they were really talking about user-created information, the information age. And I like the illustration because it talks about really emphasizing on people. And that's what you want your message to be focused, not on me, but on you, okay? The reader. Just remember, 5 points in ethics is the winning combination. And if you're interested, I thought Kickstarter was kind of a cool use of Web 2.0 in the business world. But I will see you guys on the discussion forums. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.